Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show. It's Monday, which means it's time for our Monday edition of This Week in Politics. And we're joined by Max Fawcett, lead columnist for Canada's National Observer, and Dimitri Soudas, former Director of Communications for Prime Minister Stephen Harper. To the both of you, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
So I just finished a conversation with Lindsay Shepherd. She made waves in 2017 for getting her teaching assistant job taken away from her at Sir Wilfrid Laurier University for starting a conversation on pronouns, I think, and that was the beginning of that was the first time we heard about her, and so we're bookending it with a conversation today where she has now lost her job for a tweet that she put out following Orange Shirt Day, and I want to get your assessment. I mean, is it cancel culture? Is it consequence culture? Is it somebody who should have known better, given the fact that they were in a comms position?
It's an interesting topic because on one hand, you have the conversation around free speech, and on the other hand, you have the argument that political staff can't say whatever they want. They can say whatever they want as citizens, but they can't say whatever they want as political stuff because ultimately they're not private citizens. And when they speak publicly, they are an extension of the elected office that they serve.
Yeah.
So the words that they say carry implied authority of ministers, provincial legislators, and so on. So there's also a duty of restraint. Their expression must not undermine the credibility, neutrality, or trust in the institution. So she can continue saying whatever she wants, but it is also the prerogative of whichever political party she serves and whatever political leader she serves as to whether or not they want to have them employed. So there is a duty of loyalty and confidentiality. And first and foremost, that loyalty means not saying things that don't align with the policies of the political party that she serves.
Could it my microphone's a little hot there. Could it also be, Max, can we hear you? Can you talk for me?
Yeah, sorry, gentlemen.
Okay, so you go ahead. I'm sure you heard everything there, so the floor is yours.
I was using the new microphone that Dimitri recommended. Still some technical difficulties on my side, I guess. But look, I think
I can hear you better.
That's good. I think it's very rich that Ms. Shepherd is blaming the NDP for the words that came out of her mouth and the consequences that flowed from them. I agree with everything that Dimitri said. You know, when you are in a position like the one she's in, especially a comms position, you represent the party, you represent the people you work for, and her beliefs are certainly hers to express, but they are not popular in the province as a whole. And this is a party that is trying to, at some point, win an election, form government, and saying the things that she said about a day that is pretty sacred and pretty important, I think, to acknowledge and recognize, is not going to help that party win more votes in the middle. So she adversely impacted her employer and her party's fortunes, and she was made to pay a price for it. That's how it works. You know, I got in trouble back in 2017 for a dumb tweet that I had, and I learned my lesson. I took my medicine, and I would suggest that the same is true here. She shouldn't be blaming other people. She should be taking responsibility for the things that she said.
Well, the one point that I made before the conversation happened was I was unwilling to necessarily call it cancel culture because, in my opinion, cancel culture there is at least an element of an actively working to just go find dirt on people, stuff they may have said years before and without context, and not appreciating that they may have evolved in their thinking. We're going to go find dirt that exists in the public sphere, and we're going to use that to destroy them in the here and now. This isn't that. And a few weeks ago, we started talking about the difference between cancel culture and consequence culture, and whether or not you like the consequences, it does feel like this is an action-reaction sort of situation. I see you nodding there, Dimitri.
Right. And again, I look at this from the perspective. I spent a decade of my career being the chief spokesman to the Prime Minister of Canada. My job was not to express my personal opinions. My job was ultimately to speak on behalf of the Prime Minister of Canada, to be his voice.
Yeah.
Therefore, she was the voice of the leader of the Conservative Party of British Columbia. And that hat is on permanently, 24/7, 365. If you choose to be a communications staffer, if you choose, like I chose, to be the voice of the Prime Minister in my case, well, your opinions no longer exist in the public sphere, at least. You can talk about them with your wife at night as you're about to fall asleep and say, my God, I disagree with almost everything. And then the next morning, you put on a smile and you go out there and you say what government and party policy is. That's how it works. So it's not cancel culture. It's consequence culture.
All right, let's move. Oh, Max, please.
I do wonder if there's almost a generational aspect here where, Lindsay Shepherd is younger and maybe she believes that, she should bring her full self to work. But as Dimitri pointed out, when you're in the role that she was in, you don't get to bring your full self to work. Part of yourself has to sit on the sidelines when you are a spokesperson for a politician or a political party.
All right, let's move on to a story that I did not see this one coming, but the title is Indigenous Nations Plan Customs-Free Trade Corridor Across Canada-U.S. Border. So it's a story that starts in Fort Capel in Saskatchewan, and it's going to work its way across the U.S. border into the Standing Buffalo Dakota Nation. And the goal would be for trucks from the First Nation to be transporting food, furniture, critical minerals south of the border along ancestral pathways, once used to move buffalo, and without paying taxes or tariffs. I think it's a novel idea, but I see a raft of problems, not the least of which is it just seems like the perfect opportunity for a criminal element to piggyback onto this and do some stuff nobody's supposed to be doing. Dimitri, when you hear this, what do you think? Is this ingenuity or is this taking advantage?
So the criminal element is an important one, and the primary example that I always like to give is the smuggling of illegal guns between Canada and the United States, specifically coming in from the United States into Canada, happened through primarily First Nation reserves in Ontario. The point I'll make is, if this is just a trade idea, well, what's going to happen to these goods once they go from reserve in Canada into reserve in the United States? Once they leave those reserves, guess what? There's taxes and duties and tariffs that need to be applied on them. So, interesting idea. I just don't think it's going to fly.
Max?
Yeah, I appreciate the entrepreneurship here. There are treaties, historical treaties in place, between Indigenous communities in this part of our country that are applicable here. But I'm not sure that this American government is going to respect them the way previous ones have. And either way, our borders have to mean something. Our borders and they have to be enforced in a way that is consistent and even-handed. So I admire. There's a statement from the leader of the community here saying we're not going to accept the crumbs that have been offered to us. And I wholeheartedly support that. I just don't think that this is going to work logistically or legally in the year 2025.
Yeah, I think like I said, when I read it, I was like, my goodness, this is a novel take, and it could be the beginning of an interesting thought exercise that could lead to something different. But in the embodied in what is being proposed today, it just feels like a non-starter. But I do appreciate I appreciate the initiative. I also think that those sort of trying to use things in ways for which they weren't intended sort of flies in the face of whatever the spirit of an agreement once was. I don't pretend to be an expert. This is just a gut feeling I have based on what I've read. But again, I do appreciate when people try to push the ball down the field and try different things, because it gets you thinking in different ways. Perhaps if we're thinking about something differently, in this case, that might lead to, who knows, maybe our trade negotiators going down to Washington may use this as a launching pad for a more novel approach to trade with the United States. I have no idea.
Not going to happen, Ben.
All right. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about federal language training, success or failure. Don't go anywhere. This is the Ben Mulroney Show. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of the Ben Mulroney Show.